I'm in a unique position, because I never played Risk of Rain 1. I hopped in at 2 during the pandemic and never wound up playing the first game. If you're in the same boat or haven't even touched the franchise until now, I extend my hand to you. This is your video, because I am so glad I waited for Risk of Rain's grand return. I'm gonna get this out of the way first. God damn, visually and audibly, this game is polished to hell and back. Chris Christodoulou has once again completely outdone himself with the remasters of his old tracks. I can't speak for any changes that were made from the 2013 versions, but there hasn't been a miss yet. He has quickly become a famous game composer amongst the indie community, and all of his tracks will be playing in this video. They provide an identity to the game I simply haven't heard anywhere else in any kind of media. Chris's work is completely new, taking inspiration from prog rock, 80s synth, and dramatic power ballads. The OST is beautiful. The second audio aspect I'd like to focus on is the Foley work, the feedback on guns, attacks, equipment, enemies, and other gameplay tells. Audio cues just make sense. You know when a monster spawns. You know when they'll attack. You know when the teleporter is finished, and everything else coming out of the speakers is just, it's crisp. Hopu's art team has simply crushed it. They've crushed it. It's amazing. See, I'm a big fan of pixel games. I've played a lot. I'm elated to say that Risk of Rain Return stands on the Olympic podium with the likes of Dead Cells and Enter the Gungeon. They struck an incredible balance between detailed, small-scale sprite work, but with intense readability. You almost never don't have an idea of what's going on or who's doing what, until you start getting to the mid-game bosses, where enemies will just pile up on you, cluttering the screen, making it extremely difficult to search for attack tells. I found that pretty hard, but one could argue that that could be your fault for letting the enemies pile up in the first place. I'd shake your hand on that. The other visual element I'd like to show you is the insane logbook entry arts. Just look at this! These are paintings, like illustrated murals using pixel brushes. I haven't actually seen anything like this. It's high-definition pixel art. It's so cool. The aesthetics team at Hopu understood the assignment and over-delivered. So for the new guys, what is Risk of Rain? Well, it's a faithful roguelike with aromatic hints of twin-stick shooters and vampire survivors. The stages have very unique personalities that feel amazing to explore, but you'll have to get used to all the rope climbing and high falling speed respectively. While verticality is far more important in Returns than what we see in 2, fall damage is also far more forgiving. It's telling me to use the ropes and ladders instead of taking the shortcut down with gravity, and I'm here for that. There's a huge list of survivors to play on your runs, with only 2 being unlocked at the start of the game. They have a kit of 4 abilities each, and vastly different playstyles. It's really cool. Veterans of Risk 2, like myself, will be familiar with Commando, Huntress, and Bandit, which are the first 3 you'll be playing. I know we're kind of working backwards here, but their kits are so faithful between the 2 games that I quickly got comfortable inhabiting these characters. There's a piece of accessibility I really love right at the start of the game, before you even play anything. It asks, what control scheme do you want, with a few presets, and there's one for Risk of Rain 2, which I chose. It translates really well, and I appreciate them going out of their way to do this. Of course, all controls can be bound however you like. This is a combat game, and you'll be combating a lot. Risk of Rain's main gimmick are the items scattered throughout each floor. They mutate and modify every gameplay aspect you can think of. One item heals you for every kill. Another heals you only when you're standing. The red whip increases speed out of combat, and the dagger gives you a chance to inflict bleed. And there's dozens of items. There's so many that all do these different little tweaks. And what's so beautiful about this mechanic is that the items stack. You're supposed to get multiple copies during a run because that's how you get stronger and be prepared for the higher floors. One ATG missile will randomly fire a rocket while you're attacking, but 5 ATG missiles will be shooting rockets so often you'll barely need to attack. It almost becomes a game of automation. You're not just killing enemies, you're triggering all these different procs and explosives and bleeds, and it stacks so well. The monsters drop cash, which you use to open chests, and that gives you a random item. And the roguelike thrill comes from slightly modifying your playstyle around the build the game is giving you. This encourages mastery of the characters, knowing their abilities like the back of your hand, and engaging in the long journey to memorize what each item does just by their visuals. And this is why people play Risk of Rain. You chase those massive damage numbers, tweaking your build, memorizing the items, and praying that the chests give you everything you need to demolish the bosses in front of you. Now, that's where the similarities between Returns and 2 end. The jump from 3D to 2D is going to take a lot of getting used to for us. You'll have noticed that every attack from the 3 characters I've shown so far travel horizontally, in a straight line. You cannot manually aim your weapon like you can in Metroid Dread. Instead, you'll be flicking your character back and forth with the keys as you switch targets. There are exceptions. Huntress points at whoever is closest to her, and Commando's R ability shoots in both directions at once. They certainly play with this horizontalness, but it'll be a big change for you. Second, I think I might catch flack for this, but as a Risk 2 veteran, Returns is really hard. Like, I've played 4 hours so far, okay? I've played 4 hours before writing, and I haven't even beaten the 4th floor on Rainstorm, which is the middle difficulty. Now, I haven't unlocked a bunch of items for the drop pool, but geez, man, I've gone from risen up Mithrix every day to dying to magma worms.
Do not say that again.
Shut up, Mithrix, you're in time jail. The other noticeable difference between 2 and Returns, it's getting hard to say, is the pacing of finding things. Right? So the floors aren't entirely random, there's little differences each time, but the overall architecture is the same every run. Nevertheless, they're huge. They're really big, and finding item chests, repairable drones, and the teleporter is tough. In 2, you can see those bright blue chests from all the way across the map, but in this game, they're almost blended into the foreground. You'll spend a lot of time foot-slogging your way through the levels trying to fight items before you hit the boss, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing, I think. Risk is best when there's enemies to fight, but the item hunt feels like the silence in between a pair of clapping hands, or the downtime mechanic from Blades in the Dark. It's a necessary reset from the often stressful piles of enemies, so I don't mind too much. In conclusion, buy this game. Don't wait. This video has gone live the day it launched, and it's on sale for $13 American until November 15th. I stand my ground when I say fans of Risk 2 and new players alike will enjoy this game for hours. It's so good that I didn't want to stop playing to write the script. The gameplay loop is polished and clean. There's no bugs, the vibes are perfect, no battle pass, no micros, no nonsense. It's a great game that further adds to the shame pile in the AAA industry. No wonder Gearbox bought the IP. Hopoo knows how to make good games. This is their last entry in the franchise as developers, and I can't wait to see what they do next. In the meantime, go buy it, and let's you and me play some co-op on our Discord server. I might even 100% this one.